get into it. So as you can see here, we have basically nothing here in our Google project. I'm going to change that. I'm going to create one VM instance. So basically, I'm going to deploy all three of my services on one VM. That way, it really simplifies things. Like I said, you're going to run into performance issues potentially or something crazy like that. There's going to be no automation, no infrastructure as code or anything like that. So it's going to be very bare bones, very simple on how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this an E2 micro, which we might need to actually upgrade in the future. But I think this will do for now. So we'll just call this example full stack. And essentially all we're doing here is we're doing an E2, nothing too crazy, basically the cheapest one we can have. So we're going to allow our traffic. So let's see, I think we have to expand some networking tags, custom host name, so we can do that. I wonder if we can autofill this. Sorry guys, it's been a little bit since I've clicked through the console here. Let's see, example. We can just do full stack US. Tells you which one, like what it must contain. Okay, the two labels. Labels must end with a lowercase letter or number. Central 1. Let's see. Okay, let's see if that host name works. Interface card. Oh, one thing. So you see it's trying to use the default network here and default network interface. So typically I don't like doing that, and actually I'm not going to. What we're going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open a new tab with VPC network, and I'm going to create a VPC network, and we're just going to do this example open. So this is going to be an open network, so anyone can access this network, which is not what you want. But for the simplicity's sake, we're going to just leave it open. In this region, we're going to do US Central 1 and IP range. We're going to allow everybody to everybody in here. Not worried about flow logs. Actually, we should probably give this a decent CIDR range. We can just do the default CIDR range. I know it's designated for private IPs, but okay, so this is just a standard private IP. And now we need to do firewall rules. So we can probably just take this guy right here and allow everyone. So that's what we really need to do. Allow all confirmed. Okay. So basically, this firewall rule is just going to allow anyone from the internet to access our computer or our virtual machine on any port. Doesn't matter, right? Not the best practice, but you know, obviously we need our VM to be accessible for the front end so people can actually access it. And we'll just do regional, and I think we are good to go with the creation here. Okay, so our example open VPC is here. We've got our allow all right here. And I think we need to give this, no, we don't. We need to do that to our instance. Okay, so I might have to refresh this page actually. Let's hope it doesn't nuke all of our stuff. Okay, E2 micro. Yeah, totally just, okay. Full stack, this is just the instance name example. And we're going to allow both of those. We're going to go to our networking. We're going to select our example open network and our subnetwork. Default allow all. Okay, so basically this is going to give us an external IP address here, and it's going to be mapped to our subnet that we created, or our firewall rule. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it right now. I don't think we're going to need any additional disks. Security, not concerned about it right now. We are. Sole tenancy. Okay, this should be fine. We'll go ahead and create this VM, and we'll be able to tell if this works correctly, if we're going to be able to SSH to it. So I'm going to open up iTerm right here. Hopefully that is big enough for y'all to see. I believe it is. I'm going to wait until our VM instance propagates. And of course, you're going to need gcloud installed. So I think we did full stack example, right? Yeah, example. And we got to put a hyphen right here. So if we can access this via gcloud SSH, that means we set up our firewalls correctly. Boom, and we did. Okay. So as you can see, we are now inside of our VM, and what we need to do is we need to see if Git is installed in here. Okay, it's not. So we need to run a sudo apt get git install. Sorry, it was showing there. Just kidding. There's a couple things we're going to need to install. Basically, we have a bare bones Linux container right now, and it has nothing installed in it. So we need to install Git. We need to install NVM. Personally, I like to use NVM. We need to install MongoDB, which we're going to do right now because I have it pulled up here. So here are the instructions for installing MongoDB for our Debian-based system. Too crazy. Here we just got to get the key. And then we're going to add the MongoDB repo to our instance. There we go. We got to run our sudo apt update. Updates our repositories, our packages, and then we got to install MongoDB. A couple other things we need to install, like I said, NVM, which I should probably look up right here. Install NVM Debian. We got to install curl, but I think curl exists already. We'll find out. So we can do a Mongo version, I believe. Yep. Okay. So Mongo's installed. We have curl. Totally do. All right. So we don't have to install curl. We've already got it. So we're going to take our curl command right here, which is version of NVM. Boom, there we go. And then we need to run this guy. Excuse me, mouse. Thank you. So basically this just sets our environment variables correctly, and then we need to source our bash rc. And then we should be able to use NVM to install node. nvm install node. I believe this is version 16 our application uses. Believe it is. We'll just do 16. Yes, I don't remember what version of Node this uses. I believe it's Node version. I think it's 19 that we have installed. So that's the latest version, I believe. But I think we need to do nvm in, I think it's use 16, but we got to install it. nvm install 16. Okay, so now we're using Node version 16.20. So now what we need to do is we need to run our git command to actually get our repository. So this is not my application, but it's fine. I'll clone it in here anyway. We're going to cd into our to-do app. So I'm going to add a .env file because I need certain things, React dependencies for this to work. So normally for secrets, you'd want to inject them as environment variables. So you'd want to store the secrets in something like Secrets Manager and then inject them into your environment. That way your secrets just aren't on the server, which is never a good idea. So here, what we can do in the meantime though, we can do npm install in the root directory. This is going to take a little while. npm in general, Node just takes a while to do things, right? So I'll probably edit this, cut it out till we have everything installed, and then we got to do it in every single directory too. So we got to go into our server directory as well to install our server dependencies since we're running all of this at once. Okay, so now we have our root level dependencies taken care of. I believe server also has a package.json. Yeah, so we're going to do another npm install in here. That one was much faster. So now I'm going to create an env file, and this is not how you do this. Like I said, this is just for brevity's sake, but I already know I'm going to need some variables for React. So those are the variables. This is our database stuff and secret keys for encryption. We've got our .env file, our root directory right there. And so now what we can do is we can set up our MongoDB. We need to start the service. So there we go. So we need to start the Mongo service inside the container, and then we're going to enable it. So basically, anytime this VM gets restarted, it's going to start again automatically. So now we can go to Mongo, and here you see we have the Mongo command line interface. Well, actually, you don't see because I'm in the way, but now you can see it. So a couple things we need to create. We need to create a database. To do app is going to be our DB. Okay. So should be no collections, and we need to create our collections. MongoDB create collection. All right, so it's going to be db.create collection. And I believe this is going to be to-dos. And then we're going to do the same thing with users. Okay. So we created it. And we got to do show collections. Excellent. So now we need to create a user within this DB. So we're already using the to-do app DB. So now we have to create a user. Okay. Now, here we go. So we have our user. It has read-write permissions to the to-do app DB. And I believe we should have everything set up for MongoDB right now. So, a couple things we need to do. We need to run both of our front end and back end. So essentially at this point, we're at the point where if we go to our, let's take a look at our package.json. So vcat package.json. Essentially what we have to do is we have to get our React script start here. We're going to run our npm run start for our front end. And then we also have to do the same thing to our back end. So we need to go into server and we can cat this package.json. You can see we're just running node in server.js. So there's a command you can run, which I don't remember. I'm going to have to look it up. That's okay. This command right here. It's the no hup. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to start our server first. And we're going to run this npm start command. It should start our front end. And we can run the same here. Okay, so we got our React script start. Let's see if our front end's there. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and come over here. We have to be on a certain port. So I believe, well, one, that's HTTPS, which we don't have enabled right now. And we need to be on port 8080, I believe. Oh, yes. All right. So now let's see if our database works. Connection refused. So our database isn't working yet, but we know our front end worked. I think I know what happened. We actually need to move our .env file to server. And I think that's going to get us there. Just start this with node just so we can see it. Okay, there we go. So now what we can do is we can run that no up command. And then we can go ahead and make sure connected to MongoDB. Okay, so let's go back over to our front end. And you can see now we get a forbidden error. So that means we're in, our full stack application is working at this point. We just don't have the authentication, right? So a couple notes with the React app. So if you're using Axios, in our example, you're going to have to set a dynamic entry for Axios. So if we look at our app.js, we look, let's see if we can find Axios. All right. So we had to set our base URL to this right here. So this base URL essentially grabs the domain name or the host name from the window. So it grabs the domain name, and then it's always going to be port 8000. So we're setting a base URL for Axios. That way we can access Axios at just the route, essentially, like /task or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to note that, but I believe this is going to work. So we need to register an account. I'm going to register as me. And a password is just going to be super secret password. Just want to make sure our connectivity stuff works. So let's register. Oh, they found my password. We're not going to remember that. That's fine. Okay, so now we're going to log in. And our password is going to be password. And let's log in. Unauthorized. I hope I didn't capitalize anything. Okay, let's try to register again. Let's do, I'm going to do an email at cody@yeetmail.com. Our password is going to be password. Register. Okay, let's try to log in. cody@yeetmail.com and password. All right, so I must have typed my email address wrong previously. But you can see now we are able to access our app. Let's see if we can add a task. Edit this video. Boom. We have our task here that's edited. You can see this is just a development issue. You don't really have to worry about that. But our to-do list works. Now we can end this video. Add this guy. And let's complete this task. And we can see it moves over to the done category. So effectively, we have currently deployed our application. This is exactly how it's intended to function. This is just a very basic application. So if you wanted to host this, this is how you would do it. So let me just go over everything, because through the edits and through the waiting, I'm not sure if the message got across clearly. So first thing we had to do is we had to create a VPC network in GCP. So we created example open, and we also gave it a firewall rule that allows everyone. So if we look over at our firewall here, we have example open allow custom. That's the one we created. It's applied to our network, our example open here, and it's open to all ports and all IP addresses. So this is completely open. There's no security on this. There's no gating of anything. Just so you know, this is not secure, but it'll get you where you need to be. So after that, after we created our VPC, we created our firewall, we created a subnet. That's for internal communication. You don't really need that right now. What we did is we created a VM instance, the cheapest you could possibly find, and we ran our gcloud command to actually access our server. So this gcloud command essentially communicates on port 22 with the remote server that we have here. You can see it is called full stack example. It knows our name as long as you give it the region. So this is the name of our VM that we have. You give it the zone it's in, and it's going to connect you to that VM. And from that point on, so from this point on, it is exactly like development on your local computer, except you can't use VS Code or anything like that. So essentially, all I did was set up our dependencies. Now, our dependencies were what? They were MongoDB, we needed Git, and we needed Node or NVM. So those are the three things we needed. Ideally, when you deploy this, you would write this into some type of automation. That way, every time your server gets started or you're creating a new server, it already has those dependencies installed on the VM itself. So we didn't do that, so we had to do everything manually. So we went into the virtual machine, installed everything manually, just like we would do on our local computer, and then we cloned our repository from GitHub, which is our to-do app, and then essentially we had it set up exactly like we did locally. So essentially what we did is we started our MongoDB service. We set up our database with the correct users, with the correct database name, and our collections that we needed to run the application, right? So normal stuff you would do if you were starting Mongo for the first time. Again, you should probably have some code that does that for you, so you don't have to do that step manually, but that is another video for another time. And then essentially all we did was run our commands to start our application. So we ran our back end and we ran our front end, and it was able to connect to the database and everything like that. So everything is using localhost inside of this application. So everything is contained within the computer. So it's not looking anywhere externally to make these front end, back end, and database connections. It's all looking for localhost, right? So with that being said, if you want to host your React application like this, this is a good way to do it. You can see we have our desired result. It is hosted. So you'll notice, though, this is only for HTTP. I think we set a host name, actually, for this. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious if our host name works correctly. I remember setting one, but I don't remember what it was, to be honest, in the beginning of the video. I don't remember what our host name was for this, but not a problem. So you'll notice that this is just an IP address. And actually, I think what we can do if we exit here and we take this IP address, let's do an NS lookup on this IP address, 34.170.217.131. Okay, so yeah, it's there. Doesn't have our host name that we gave it, but that's fine. Anyway, I digress. This is how you deploy a React app in a very rudimentary way. This is not the way you would do this for a production environment, obviously, but if you're just looking to host something that you can show, potential employers, if you're a developer, this is probably a good way to do it for the time being, especially something simple like a to-do app like this. Now, I will create a separate video going over DNS. However, I need to buy a domain, so this app can actually be hosted on an actual DNS name, like a legitimate name, like mytodolist.com or whatever the case may be. And then I'll show you how to basically assign a certificate to this, make sure you can access this through HTTPS. I'll go over all that in a separate video, but for the time being, I think this is a good amount of information for you guys.